But the problem is, simplistically speaking, and people will fall asleep, but because they're not interested, and rightly so. Not everyone's interested in religion. But the truth is that the Muslims don't believe that. These are extremists with extremist views, and people can't get their heads around that. That there's this different Islam. It's nothing to do with mainstream Islam. But people, until you get into the books, until you get into the text, you're never going to know that actually these nut jobs are exactly that. They're nut jobs. With the KKK,
how dare you? I read a blog in The Spectator only yesterday explaining why all Muslims are secretly terrorists. Brackets, joke, close brackets, open brackets, sort of, close brackets.
But every Muslim will be screaming out. It's the media narrative. Everyone will be saying that. So
that's the balance. That is the balance. And right there, in order to actually have a level playing field, to coin a phrase that we're using in a very different context a lot at the moment, we would need to be essentially looking for the baptism certificate of every person convicted of a crime in this country over the last 20 years and sticking Christian in the headline if they've ever been near a church.
But conversely, then no one will be shouting out, we want a headline that says it's got to be a Christian, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is what we do see is the imbalance in the purporting of these crimes. So there's of course we ask ourselves, why is it that a community is identified behind every single terrorist act when they just so happen to be Muslim, whereas when you look at, let's say, somebody who's white, Western European, it's, maybe they're mentally ill, they probably, there's probably some history behind that. There's history behind everything.
So it is just a huge double standard or triple standard. That I don't think anyone can really argue with that. And the only people that would argue with it provide the most compelling proof that you're right. Why has it happened then? Why has it just simply because it sells papers and people actually enjoy? Selling tickets for the ghost train.
That is the question. What's the reason behind their narrative? Is it sensationalism and they just want it, and that's what sells papers, or is there some conspiracy? I don't know. Without getting into conspiracies, I just don't know.
There can't be a conspiracy because I've been in this business for rather longer than I care to remember, and some of the people you're thinking of now, I have crossed paths with. I may even have shared office.
You'll admit that it does exist, though, right?
Completely, it exists, but it's not a conspiracy.
So you have to be blind. But people, here's the problem, and this is the problem, because people who do verge towards the nutcases, they'll say it's the conspiracy. I believe it's sensationalism. I believe it will.
Yes, you're right.
It's simply.
Right, just look at this question here, right? We mentioned questions, because this is another one of those infernal clips doing the rounds where somebody's spouting absolute nonsense, goes unchallenged live on BBC One, and then, in a way that I'm not comfortable with, gets held up as a sort of latter-day Victorian bearded lady or freak show all over social media by people claiming that they don't like what she's saying, but here, share it with a couple of 100,000 people. But here's the fundamental problem and the proof of what you describe. If I was starting my career now and I wanted to be on Question Time by the end of March, what would make that most likely to happen? Me sitting here explaining with a lot of detail and evidence and patience why we should treat all terrorists the same, or me sitting here claiming that as a public school educated heterosexual white man, I'm a victim of oppression and discrimination on a scale that nobody appreciates? What would get me onto Question Time quicker if I accepted their generous invitations?
Yeah, well, what you're the way what you're saying is not popular.
No.
Unfortunate as it is.
It is quite popular, but the speak your weight machine is never going to have a queue as long as the ghost train, and that's the bottom line. So there is a media model there, but it's not a conspiracy. And I know you don't think it is.
No, I don't think so. And